Hey Jerry, how's it going?
It's going well, actually, Mac. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing all right. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna start off on exposing January 6th lies.
Hmm.
Um, it was something that Crowder was talking about 1 week ago, a little over a week ago, and obviously, they're still going over a lot of this stuff, and with the I believe they have the committee still going, don't they? The January 6th committee.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think this will help catch us up on what some of the people out there are talking about, and then we can discuss this. All right. So I'm gonna just let me know if you want me to pause it, and we can discuss.
All right.
Here are a few videos for those to refresh your memory, and then I'll get into the ins and outs of Ray Epps. I think we have a montage, right? Ray Epps from January 5th and 6th in real time. People thinking that this man was an undercover agent, and then we'll give you some evidence afterwards, along with some speculation as to why I 100% believe he is. Let's start.
In fact, tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
No, you won't. We need to go, I'll say it.
All right. Like, how about
We
you
need
shut
to
up?
go in to the Capitol.
Let's go!
So I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. No! Peacefully. Fed. Peacefully. Okay, folks, spread the word. As soon as the president's done speaking, we go to the Capitol. The Capitol's this direction.
There he is right there, whispering to someone.
Sure reminds us of something in the past, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Even Gates.
Okay. Now, to be clear, maybe he's not a Fed. Maybe he just actually is one of the very select few people who was planning some kind of an insurrection. That would be a totally valid theory.
Right,
If you
yeah.
watched those initial clips, you would say, okay, seems like it's one or the other. Either this guy is somebody who is causing trouble, or he's someone who is trying to, unfortunately, guilt by association, everybody else, memory hole people, gaslight people, and have you believe that everyone else was being violent when it was really someone like him. It's one of those two conclusions. Either he's a Fed, or he's actually an asshole. Now, let me present to you why I think that he was an undercover agent, because we've seen what's happened. They've made examples to more moderate assholes like the QAnon shaman.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. So Revolver News, just to give you, again, some context, we have to go back in time to refresh your memory. They published a few pieces on this guy, Ray Epps. I think we can bring it up right now. Yeah. There you go. Keep in mind, he hasn't been indicted on anything, Ray Epps. So compared to what we've seen and compared to what the consequences we've seen, he has not been indicted on anything. And as a matter of fact, the FBI has Ray's picture under the seeking information.
Well, that's
Not
odd when
very
it was
hard.
his idea.
Right.
You have video. What else? What other information?
Now, in that picture, can we bring up that picture again? He's the last person seen speaking with a guy named Ryan Samsel, okay?
Right there.
That's one of the first men to breach the fence. Now, Epps is right there, so Samsel, okay? Ryan was arrested in January and held without bond or formal charges until August 25th.
Huh? It's almost like that's not speedy.
Right.
Or chargy.
Then you have, after that, Epps was taken off the FBI Capitol Riot Most Wanted list. He's right there. The guy he's with was held until August, just to be clear. Ray Epps is right there. They know where he is. I know some of you might be saying, okay, so now it seems that there's some foul play, but there are several conclusions here. Either there's foul play, or maybe they just can't find him. Well, it's interesting that you might bring up that point. When he was asked by journalists who didn't have to do all that much legwork, they had a phone book, about January 6th, Ray Epps ran off. He was easy to find. This is
pure politics. I've been trying to get a hold of you. We met January 5th.
We're patriots.
Hey, you look awfully
Do
free.
you remember me from January 6th?
I understand that, but I can't say anything.
Are you still under investigation by the FBI?
Are you a federal informant?
Is there a reason why the FBI took you off the most wanted list?
Are you a federal informant? Ray Epps?
Nice
Are you a
ranch.
federal
It's
informant?
not even gated.
He has a 6-person golf cart.
That's Ray Epps, alleged federal informant, driving into his property.
That's completely. He
Or for Steve Bannon's wife, a 4-person golf cart.
Yes. A one person.
If you're lucky. So
It's Steve and his wife golf cart.
Unbelievable.
So let's think about that for a second. It's not, you don't live in a free country because you have laws. You've heard me talk about this many times. It's you live in an actually free country if the laws are applied equally. So let's say he's not a Fed. Let's say he's not. And I can't say definitively that he is. We're all speculating here because we've not been given any information, despite the fact that there's the most robust committee of all time that has been created.
Robust.
I said robust.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just highlighting.
Oh, I thought you were correcting me.
Robust.
I was like, did I just say bust? I got bust on the brain.
Admonish him.
It's a busty committee.
So another guy is held without bail. Other people from the riots are held without bail. This guy's right there. He's easily found. Nothing. And no answers have been provided. And he was taken off the most wanted list. So now I would argue this. There are only two possible conclusions after the information that we presented. Either he was a Fed who was there as a plant beforehand, or afterwards he worked with them, which maybe granted him some kind of immunity.
True.
Doesn't seem very likely, though, the latter, considering that I don't believe many people at all, aside from I think there was one person with the Proud Boys, I think. Not many people have been granted immunity at all if they happen to work with conservative groups. They want scalps. That's what they want.
Right.
That's all they have are scalps. They don't have evidence of real violent crimes, so they're looking for scalps. So if this guy afterwards said, you know what, I'll work with you for immunity, based on the history of the Democratic Party, I can't imagine they would take it.
Yeah, somebody in the control room. I believe that it was either Jim Jordan or somebody else was questioning somebody on a committee about Ray Epps, and they kept shutting him down. Was it Massey that did it?
Massey was.
Yeah, see if we can find some video of that because they're questioning about who's this Ray Epps.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
It's hard to pull out any information on this.
Tim said he has it.
You have it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Rep Massey questioning Merrick Garland.
Oh,
yeah.
You said this is one of the most sweeping investigations in the history. Have you seen that video or those frames from that video?
Why is your hair a sea urchin?
So as I said at the outset, one of the norms of the Justice Department is to not comment on impending investigations, and particularly not to comment about particular scenes or particular individuals.
Why are you here?
I was hoping today to give you an opportunity to put to rest the concerns that people have that there were federal agents or assets of the federal government present on January 5th and January 6th. Can you tell us, without talking about particular incidents or particular videos, how many agents or assets of the federal government were present on January 6th, whether they agitated to go into the Capitol, and if any of them did?
So I'm not going to violate this norm of the rule of law. I'm not going to comment on an investigation that's ongoing.
Yeah, by the way, it's such a private investigation that it was ongoing in prime time, and they were going to do it again today, but they wanted to make sure there were so many people who were watching that they decided to bump it because of the hurricane. You were about to say something, sir, before we went.
Well, also wasn't that the investigation?
Kind of.
I mean, sort of.
Yeah.
How many people that were arrested, I would like to know, are giant landowners, have farms, like this Mike Epps' brother? It seems like he's very well off.
Seems pretty well
If
off.
that was his property, how many people went down to the Capitol that had that kind of money, property, or potentially that were risking to lose that to go there and convince people that they should storm a Capitol?
Right.
Doesn't that seem suspicious?
It does seem suspicious.
Just a little bit.
I don't know. The fact that he has his own Neverland ranch?
Yeah, that's kind
of... All right.
Mac, interesting is as the government tends to, on any of these public protests, if you will, that are put on by conservatives, or even they did with the Tea Party as well, is any conservative groups, is that they put in instigators. And that was actually one of the things I was most worried about in Nevada at Bunkerville, was that they were going to send in somebody to go ahead and try to instigate a problem, some violence. When anybody would even open their mouth about that, I'd usually just kick them out of the camp. And but here the government with we'll say this guy Epps, whether or not we know whether he was an instigator or working for the government, or just an instigator on his own right. But as Stuart Rhodes never got indicted. for Bunkerville,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't get indicted for up at the in Oregon either, at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, and he was there and active and in front of the cameras, and they had a lot of footage on him as well. Now he's sitting in a jail over the January 6th.
Right.
One of the guys who was convicted in Bunkerville ended up getting 58 years. Had worked with the FBI as an informant in Texas, and the FBI didn't want to use him at Bunkerville. He had offered. That was my understanding through the evidence that I saw, and the FBI refused to retain him as an informant on us for whatever reason or
Right.
whatever they would create. But then they ended up indicting him when they indicted everybody in 2016, and he got sentenced by a tape that he had made with the FBI to 48 years, and then the judge tagged on another 10 years. Of course, all the cases got thrown out except for anybody they convicted because of the behavior of the FBI, the Bureau of Land Management, and the prosecution in the case. But when I hear this about like EPS, it's obvious there's a problem there, and if you don't have equal justice, you don't have justice. It's one-sided,
Right.
And it just doesn't work. And that's what causes people really to lose faith in our government, is when people are knowingly doing something wrong and they're not prosecuted, or they're knowingly didn't do something wrong and they are prosecuted. And it doesn't matter the political party. It's that we're all individuals and we should all be held to the law at the same level of enforcement. And
Right.
But there's a lot of corruption in the FBI. I mean, this is the FBI when Garland said that the FBI doesn't comment on ongoing cases. They leaked information, Comey did, on Trump's investigation, and they were leaking information like a sieve
All day,
and
every day.
that's just a lie.
CNN had all their main articles for a year just from Comey.
Well, they even knew when to go to a house that was being raided by the FBI in the middle of the night or
Right.
early morning. Someone, so that was obviously DOJ. So DOJ, which the FBI is part of the DOJ, is just a liar, and that's just completely untrue. Everybody knows it's untrue, and the problem is that what do you do about it?
Right.
How do you enforce that? And I mean, Hillary Clinton's gotten away with literally murder and beating up her tapes and smashing phones and acid washing and whatever, everything she had, and nothing happens. And
I've thought about this for a long time, man, and I can't even imagine a way. I could not fathom a way to fix it. The only way that you could possibly do this is you wipe it out completely. Zero. Every man, woman, child, I don't care who is working for the FBI, if they are an employee of the Department of Justice, you fire them. Every single one of them. And the only way to make that work is you'd have to do that with the IRS too. You would have, because they're going to come after you through tax. They're gonna eviscerate you that direction. So you'd have to remove every single person out of bureaucracy. Every one of them. If it's federal bureaucracy, it will have to be gone, because without it won't work.
And that's an issue. When Trump took office, is he had to trust somebody's recommendation on somebody, and you wouldn't think. I mean, if you listen to Sean Hannity, it's only the top 1%. So if Trump was even listening to him and saying, I think it's only the top 1% of the FBI that is corrupted, well, you have just left the door wide open by forgetting about the other 99% or 98% or 97%. Because how many good FBI agents have come out publicly and said, hey, you know what? I'm putting my job on the line here. I'm putting myself on the line. I'm going to tell the truth of what I saw and what's been happening. And not that some haven't, and the media maybe isn't covering it whatsoever, but not enough have come out.
The
They should
only
be on the
ones
Capitol
that I've
steps.
seen come, and I could say this without any reasonable doubt because I follow this stuff pretty closely. And YouTube's got plethora of content of people coming out. The only people that come out that I have ever seen were either fired by the FBI or they're retired. That's it. They're the only ones.
Nothing to lose now.
Right.
Nothing to lose. When Wooten, who was the Bureau of Land Management's lead investigator on the Bunkerville deal with Clive and Bundy and the ranch, was when he saw what was happening, the railroading, he saw what was happening within the trials on that case, and the evidence being hidden from the defendants that the defendants knew existed but couldn't prove it, and there was a judge that was completely in league with the prosecution to prosecute everybody possibly to the full extent of the law, irregardless of justice. In that case, is if Wooten hadn't come out and wrote a letter to the Department of Justice under Trump, and then also to the judge, putting them on notice that in fact that there is corruption going on here, that they've been hiding tapes about the snipers and lying that there weren't snipers there aimed at a family and children without a warrant, is everybody would have still gone through that trial. And that was one man's conscience. And he wasn't a supporter of Clive and Bundy or any of us, actually, but he knew that things were wrong. And he ended up getting transferred out of Washington, D.C., and they took all of his paperwork and everything away from him because they didn't want the truth to be out there. And that's exactly what the FBI does. And it's frustrating, is that lack of justice. You know, when I was a kid, there was a show out called The Untouchables, and it had this actor in there, Robert Stack, and it was about the FBI, and they're going after all the real big bad guys back in the 40s and 50s. They're making out, and I always thought the Untouchables were, when I was a kid, were the bad guys that they thought they were untouchable, and then the FBI would come catch them. And but in reality, it's the FBI. They think that they're the untouchables, and that no matter what they do, that it's okay. They can get away with it because they're so united in their defense of whatever goal it is that they have in mind. And we saw that with the President Trump, them going after him.
I mean, in reality, it's that thin blue line, right? It's it's they stand together. And what's funny is I used to be, because that part of the political world, especially when BLM happened. And I was like, you know,
that's Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, not Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of Land Management. Yeah, because you bring a different insight. Well, we both bring a different insight to what BLM means. When I say most, I'm talking 95+% of the entire country, including people that are politically aware, have zero clue what Bureau of Land Management is or can be. So. That's always that's an interesting concept. But one of the what was I saying? I can't even remember.
Well, you were talking about the BLM. What happened with BLM when they lifted up their head?
Black Lives Matter, and you know, one of their complaints were about policing. The funny thing is they weren't off. The problem is that they were just off in the sole target. They truly believe they were the sole target, which we all know that is not the case. The numbers obviously don't support that, right? But also the policing is bigger than just local police. And one of the things that I do on my spare time when things I like to watch is I watch the First Amendment auditor videos, and how grotesque, even at your local municipality level, your local policing level, how grotesquely uneducated they are when it comes to rights of citizenry. Something as basic as video recording with your cell phone in something like a post office. They believe that is illegal. And it's not. It's for, or like when a cop pulls you over and and the beat cop pulls you over in a traffic stop, and they start asking you all those questions, you're immediately guilty if you say I am invoking my Fifth Amendment. I'm not going to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Just give me a ticket.
Well, that's the thing is when you're aware of what your rights are, and then you go forward with the expectation that those rights mean something and that they're going to be honored, is then all of a sudden you're an enemy of the state.
Right. And that's happening at all levels,
that's
right? That's the FBI. That's that's up at the executive branch. That's that's
training
down,
academies,
that's all the way down into the local police units. The anybody who exercises their rights outside of a courtroom is considered an enemy of the state. And
well, why is it that the FBI can lie to you through their teeth? They can lie to everybody actually through their teeth. And then if you lie to the FBI, even unwittingly, that's against the law.
And that happens. That happens even at the what do you call it? That even with the local level, lie to a cop when you get pulled over. And watch what happens. That is truly one of those, the F around and find out.
Yeah.
They will make an example of you. And by you pressing back on them, they'll give you the contempt of cop.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Same thing with the FBI, right?
I knew a cop in LA. It was Philly, former Los Angeles County Sheriff. And him and I did some business together building. And I ended up going to a gun show with him and his partner and a friend of his that he had served with, which I didn't know him all that well personally. And was more of a business relationship. And then they were talking about some of the incidents that they had in LA and actually shooting people. And one of them said, well, you know what the oath is you, and they're talking about in court, you lie about it and I'll swear to it. That's what I heard. I was appalled.
Right.
And actually I didn't do any more business with them because I just couldn't take dealing with somebody with that mentality. And you can, a lot of the TV shows, if you notice today, is that they show the law breaking, bending the rules, going outside of it to seek justice.
Right.
And there's a problem with that, is because whose justice is it? If the laws only apply to a few, you don't have justice. And but it becomes the norm as well. I do this or I do that. And irregardless of what the law says, they got the right guy. How do you know? Every now and again, we find some guy who's been in prison for 35 years, 40 years, who was convicted, and it comes out he's innocent. And they find it on DNA evidence or whatever. And how's that guy get that life back?
Right. And before we move on to the next segment, one on that note right there, what you were just talking about is there's a cop. He's very well known in a neighboring county to where I'm at right now. He has written he's one of the most decorated beat patrols for giving the most DUIs in the country. He's given awards for it. And this guy has convicted now himself by getting people who don't know their rights, not realizing that a field sobriety test is a suggestion. I believe in all 50 states. There might be like one exception, but the mass majority of the states, you do not have to take a field sobriety test at any point. If they ask you to take a sobriety test, you say, no, thank you. Because those have been proven.
They'll haul you in.
Flawed. They'll haul you in, and that's okay. You let them take you, and you go. But you have to do the sobriety test, the breathalyzer, the machine in the precinct. That one you do have to do. But walking a straight line and staring at flashlights is not an extremely accurate way of doing it. This dude has gotten in just this year alone, he got 15 people on DUI that were all found innocent. He's getting cases right now that are thrown out in court from 3 years ago, 4 years. These people are all suffering from DUIs. They don't even drink. And doesn't matter. He's Mr. DUI. That's how they know him as. So this corruption in policing as an entirety, I mean, it goes down to the way they take their tests, how they find these people, right? They teach them to shoot first. They don't teach them anything about law. And you'll hear cops, good ones like Officer Tatum, and there's a couple of them that do like auditing review, former cops, where they're like, they don't teach you anything about the laws that you're enforcing. You learn about like patterns and you enforce patterns, but you don't enforce law. And the FBI, a lot of, with the FBI, I mean, that's got to be even worse, because if you think about what they're dealing with, people in the FBI are dealing with massive, white collar crime, but they don't know if it's a crime. They're investigating something that they're told, go investigate and find this whatever this is, go find it. And they're probably operating under the pretense that it must be a law that they're breaking. They have no clue. You cannot tell me that any one of those FBI agents that you were dealing with prior to the raids, did they actually know if you were breaking any law?
No, actually, in reality, is the under sheriff in Nevada, Lombardi, I think he's running for governor now, did a video saying that we didn't break any laws and we weren't breaking any laws and we could stay right where we were.
Right. And the sheriff didn't pull up to his part of it by removing the feds, by removing the feds out of it. He absolutely 100% could have, and he didn't.
And that's part of the danger, Mac, is when the federal government gives grants to local county sheriffs, because that's typically where or grant money goes, so that they can house federal prisoners, and so they end up the taxi service and also the holding facility for federal prisoners. They get huge money for that, and then they add on to their detention centers, and they hire more officers, and they get more cars, and then they become addicted to that money. And then whatever then the sheriff takes the authority that he has to challenge the feds on doing something within his county, and just ignores it and lets them just run their county.
Right, because once you feed them that sweet federal tax dollar, that becomes like crack. And it's no different for your police departments, your sheriff's departments. They all get some kind of that sweet green. And
I talked to an inmate. I mean, not an inmate, but an officer at one of the prisons, and he was against getting the COVID vaccine. And he says, "I'm not doing it." Real liberty-minded guy. Well, I'm not doing it. Nope. And then when he started realizing that they were serious about firing people for it, and how his tune changed, and it's like, well, I can't lose my job. I've got my mortgage and all that. I was like, well, wait a minute. Where's all the courage that you were displaying here, a week or two ago or a month ago? And I'm not doing it. All of a sudden, there's a personal cost.
And that will be for another topic. That is something that we had dealt with on our side, and we fought it straight through, and that'll be for another story, because that's definitely a good one, and it's a long story.